August 25th, 2024, Seoul, South Korea. The grand final of Valorant Champions. Edward Gaming against Team Heretics. 5 maps. Everything on the line. And on the other side of every camera in China, an audience that has waited years for this exact moment watches a 20-year-old from Chongqing put up a number that has never existed in the history of the game. By the time the series ends, he will have racked up 111 kills across 5 maps, shattering the previous best-of-5 kill record by 6. 2 aces, a 4K in round 21 that single-handedly stops a Heretics comeback dead in its tracks. Edward Gaming wins 3-2. China, for the first time in the history of competitive Valorant, is world champion.
On every Chinese social platform simultaneously, the same phrase starts trending, typed over and over by hundreds of thousands of people at once. Zhongguo jiayou. China. Go. His name is Zheng Yongkang. The world calls him ZmjjKK. And before we get to how a kid from Chongqing became the reason an entire country's esports scene got taken seriously for the first time, you need to know where that strange, almost unpronounceable nickname actually comes from. Because it isn't random. It's the most personal thing about him.
Almost everyone who watches Valorant has tried to pronounce his name and gotten it wrong. The community just calls him Kang. But the letters tell a story that most fans didn't know until he explained it himself in a pinned post on his own social media. ZmjJ is my elder brother's game ID, he wrote. His name is Zheng. His brother is 7 years older. Growing up, Mingjia wanted to go pro in Counter-Strike 1.6. Wanted it badly, the way teenagers want things before life makes the decision for them. It never happened. The dream stayed a dream.
And when his younger brother started building his own competitive career years later, in a completely different game, he took his brother's old gaming handle and folded it into his own. ZmjjKK. His brother's ID, plus his own initials. I feel like I can carry a part of his dream in my professional Valorant career, he said. I can take a part of my brother's dream with me as I compete on the international stage.
Every time that name appears on a broadcast, every time a caster stumbles over how to say it, there is a man in China who never got to live his own esports dream, watching his little brother do it instead, carrying both of them at once.
Chongqing, a mountainous city of over 30 million people in southwestern China, with no established pipeline into global esports. Zheng Yongkang was born here on March 3, 2004. When Valorant launched in China in 2021, the region was starting from almost nothing. No history, no international credibility, an afterthought in the eyes of the rest of the competitive world. ZmjjK didn't wait for the infrastructure to exist before he started competing. He joined Royal Never Give Up's Valorant division in 2020, part of the very first wave of Chinese players to take the game seriously. Within a year, his team had won 3 consecutive regional Hong Kong and Taiwan titles, before most of the world had any idea who he was. September 2021. Edward Gaming, one of the most storied organizations in Chinese gaming, with a Valorant roster nobody outside the region was watching yet. ZmjjKK played Duelist, the entry fragger whose job is to take the first fight and either die doing it or open the door for everyone behind him. The highest variance role in the game. He was, almost from the start, a hero far more often than he had any business being. 2022 brought EDG's first real international test, and a win at the VCT East Asia Region Finals secured something that had never existed before, a Chinese team spot at Valorant Champions. Their group opponent in Champions 2022 was Paper Rex, the most feared team in Asia Pacific. EDG were not supposed to compete with them. ZmjjKK was the standout performer on either side of the server, the player who made the rest of the world stop and ask, "Who is this?"
2023 brought VCT Masters Tokyo, where EDG beat Natas Vincere 2-0 in groups, the first time a Chinese Valorant team had ever won a match at an international LAN. ZmjjKK earned total MVP and led EDG to a top 6 finish. Then, 2024 started badly. EDG played Valorant Masters Shanghai on home soil in front of their own crowd and didn't win a single match. The doubt was real, and so was the pressure on the player everyone in China had started building their hopes around. They didn't blow up the roster. They kept the core and added one rookie, Simon, off the bench. Everything clicked back into place almost immediately. EDG won both China regional splits, beating Fun plus Phoenix in both grand finals, and entered Champions 2024 in Seoul as China's #1 seed. They lost their group opener to G2. Then, in a win-or-go-home match against Paper Rex, the same team that had introduced ZmjjKK to the world stage 2 years earlier, EDG fell behind 3-13 on the opening map and stormed back to win the next two, 13-8 and 13-4. That comeback is the moment EDG stopped looking like a feel-good story and started looking like a team that believed they could win the whole thing. They went on to eliminate Trace Esports, Sentinels, and Leviathan on their way to the final. The grand final. Heretics opened by taking map 1, 13-6, a brutal start. ZmjjKK answered. EDG dominated map 2, 13-4, with a 4-kill round and an ace from him. Map 3, an unorthodox double controller composition, gave Heretics no answers. Heretics took map 4 to force a decider. Map 5. Heretics scored 5 rounds in a row at one point, cutting the lead to 9-11 and threatening one of the great comebacks in Champions history. In round 21, ZmjjKK produced a 4-kill round that stopped the bleeding completely. EDG closed it out 13-9. Series over. World champions. The final stats: 111 kills across the series, shattering the previous best-of-5 record of 105. 26 first kills, meaning he opened the round, took the highest risk fight again and again for an entire grand final, and won almost every one of them. 2 aces. He was named the first ever official Champions MVP, voted on not by a closed-door panel, but by talent, co-streamers, media, and the wider community, all agreeing there was only one correct answer. And then came the quote that mattered more than the kill count. In the post-match interview, ZmjjKK didn't talk about his own stat line. He talked about the region. "Why can't we get the championship?" he said. And now, the whole world is going to focus on VCT CN. China's Valorant scene had spent years being treated as an afterthought. He had just settled that argument, permanently, in the loudest way possible. The reaction inside China was something close to a national moment. Zhongguo Jiao trending everywhere at once. He went from 15th in the APAC regional rankings in 2022 to 6th in 2023 to simply 1st in 2024. Best in Asia Pacific, no qualifiers needed. What makes his story land harder than a highlight reel of broken records is the weight he carried that nobody could see on a stat sheet. The competitive pressure every top player understands. And underneath it, the pressure of representing something larger than himself, a region's legitimacy, a country's belief that it belonged on the biggest stage. And underneath even that, quietly, the one thing almost nobody watching knew until he said it himself. He was carrying his brother's unfinished dream into every single round.
Records get broken eventually. Someone will probably top 111 kills in a best-of-5 one day. But the reason those letters are arranged the way they are doesn't change. ZmjjKK never got to go pro in Counter-Strike. He got something else instead. A brother who turned that unfinished dream into a Valorant Champions trophy and said his name out loud 26 times, every time he took a first kill in the biggest final of his life.
ZmjjKK Yongkang, born March 3, 2004, in Chongqing, China. The first Chinese Valorant world champion in history. Record holder for most kills in a Champions Best-of-5 series. The first ever official Champions MVP. A name most casters still mispronounce, carrying a story almost none of them know the full version of. In Seoul, with an entire country chanting behind him, he proved the dream was always big enough for both of them.